Well, this time around it's going to be a lot harder to do. Because the theory is... Yeah. No, it's like, right now I'm using OBS, so I'm hoping... Are we live? Okay, hopefully I don't mess it up this time around. It seems we are live, it seems we're ready to go, and we're talking about markets today. Everybody seems to be okay with the sound. Let me know how it is for everybody, because we're still making tweaks and... Oh, not here. Starting in 5, 4, 3. This is a pre-post video. Welcome to another episode of Market Buzz, everybody. Today we're gonna be having a little debate between Demetris and Akim and Timothy and myself. We're gonna try to evaluate the two cases that the market is facing right now, the bull versus the bear. Demetris and Akim are the bulls, and me and Timothy are the bears. So we'll see what happens here, just to have an idea how we plan to sort of address this market. We are in the short term, Timothy and myself, in the bearish side at the moment, as uncertainty continues to pile up. Demetris and Akim seems to be in the bullish side. We'll see what the differences are and why we have them. Maybe you learn something. Maybe you can apply some of the things. Maybe you find out something new. So make sure to watch the whole episode. But yeah, markets are crazy right now. They sold off yesterday, and now they're finding a little bit of strength with Japan being in the talks with the United States. There's hopes there. The question is what would be the first deal? And when that happens, what will we see? You know? So who wants to begin? I guess let's start with Demetris' bull case. Yeah, I agree. I agree on that. I agree on that. We cannot hear Demetris? Dang. Why not? Yeah, we should be able to. We should be able to hear you. My goodness. No, well, like it should be on my side. It seems. Speak. All right, let me have a look here. Oh, I think I know what it is. All right, I know what the problem is.
What the problem is?
Yeah, it's just now they should be able to hear you. So speak again, and Mimi, please confirm.
Okay, so let me go back to the Fed.
All right, let me. All right, let me have a look at this. My goodness, man, I swear to God, one day I'm gonna get it just right. They should be able to hear you. So speak again, and Mimi, please confirm.
Okay, so let me.
Yeah, I can hear you. All right, cool. All right, now, okay. So, Dimitri,
Okay.
start from the beginning, I guess. Start from the beginning.
So, I'm bullish, looking the environment, looking where we are, and starting with the Fed. The one possibility that would make me turn bearish is the stagflation scenario. Okay, that's the only scenario that the Fed does not have the tools to do anything, because the Fed, in a perfect world, when inflation goes down and unemployment goes up, then it plays with the rates and vice versa. But in the stagflation event, which is the worst case scenario, the recession is not the worst case scenario, because in the recession they can do something. The stagflation is the scenario that they can't do anything. So that's the Fed. In terms of Trump, I think, as I told you yesterday, Nestor, we're waiting for the first domino, okay? The first domino has to be like a large economy that makes a deal. Is it Japan? Is it the UK? I don't know, but we need the first domino to get this thing rolling. As far the percentages that he has on China, 245%, that's not sustainable, and we all know that. He's not looking. He's not looking too much their tariffs. If it was 10 or 20%, then you can say, you know what, it stays long term. But the 245%, it's unsustainable. So he's looking for a deal. So in the meantime, the market is reacting to everything. Shoots first, ask questions later. The case with NVIDIA yesterday, NVIDIA took a 10% cut yesterday. Okay, maybe it was a bit of an overreaction. Yeah, I think so. Maybe 10% was too much. At 5%, I wouldn't mind. But overall, looking 2025, I'm remaining bullish for the end of the year. But the first half is going to be volatile, and we have to get the tariffs to get out of the way, to sign a couple of deals, and then I think we're going to be fine. Everything is set up perfectly to have a good year. Now, if you dive into the market and you start buying now, while everything is down so cheap, I think you're going to be rewarded by the end of the year.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, like one thing that maybe the audience didn't hear because of the technical difficulties was that you said the Fed is in a very good place right now, because in case that we get any recession fears or any unemployment rises, we are not at zero, so we can actually reduce the interest rates.
Yes.
In the case that it needs to be. So you agree that the Fed is doing the right thing with interest rates at the moment?
I don't think it's doing the right thing. I think that, yeah, you can say, I guess you can say it's doing the right thing. Is not because the administration wants the Fed to cut, and they're clearly not cutting. And I believe remaining above neutral, it's the right move, because until Trump, the soft landing was right there.
Yeah.
The soft landing was right there, okay? Everything was going according to the plan, get to 2%, start getting the cuts, and then Trump just derailed the whole plan of the Fed. So the Fed has room to work in case of something happen other than stagflation. Stagflation is the one scenario that anything the Fed does is going to hurt.
Okay. All right. Okay, Timothy, give me your point of view in this case.
Yeah. So something people might not have heard when Demetris said it, but I'm not bearish. I don't think you, Nestor, are bearish shorting the market. My outlook in the short term is bearish, which means I think markets are likely to go lower, or at least that's the lows we had in March. And I have three reasons to think why that's the case. First of all, the stock market, when you check the technical analysis, it's in a downtrend. And whenever the trend is down, the trend is your friend. So we can expect, or it's more likely to continue down. So that's one simple reason. Second reason is the tariffs are now paused for 90 days. And I think the uncertainty is not over, which will still spook the market. And until we know what Trump his game plan is and what the end game will be, uncertainty will remain. So that's why we can at least expect some choppy market, hence why Nestor and me said it's a trader's market. So that's the second reason. Third reason um, came yesterday, and we saw ASML earnings missing expectations. It dropped, I don't know how many percent, but it dropped just like Nvidia dropped. And it does raise concerns across the sector because chip makers are often seen as a forward looking indicator of the broader economy, meaning if people, if companies reduce their chips for the production of chips, it means they don't expect to sell as much as uh, they would in the future. It all happens with the chips first, then it goes to the cars, the phones. So that means, yeah, companies like Apple in the future might sell less phones. So the demand is going down around the globe. And that's why I think it's an extra layer of why I believe the market could go lower. That's what the market is picking up. I'm not saying that the market will continue lower until things recover when because the market is always forward looking. There should just be one sign where things go good again in the economy, and you will see that rebound. So that's basically what I'm thinking right now. What do you
Okay.
think?
Okay. Let's see what Akim has to say, and then because I
Mhm.
agree on a couple of your points, but then I would add a couple of on my own as well. But Akim, so tell me why you're
Yeah.
bullish. Why we need to buy this market?
Yeah. So as Dimitri mentioned, we're all bulls. Yeah. And in terms of outlook, some of us have a near-term bearish outlook. Some have a near-term bullish outlooks. My outlook is actually very bullish, both near-term, medium-term, long-term, whatever you want. The reason being is that we as investors, we always need to look forward. The bad news already happened. The 245% tariffs on China, the tariffs on penguins, on Europe, on UK, all you want. This already happened. So when you actually see people commenting on eToro in the posts on the feed, you get the sentiment, a very bearish sentiment that you're reading from people. The reason is that bearish sentiment is fed by what happened already. No one is scared about what's going to happen next week because it doesn't matter if there's 250% tariffs on China or 300% or 500%. Trump can announce 1000% tariffs on China. It's already priced in. It doesn't matter anymore at this point. It's just not sustainable. The tariffs on China. China is one of the largest trading partner of the US. I think it's the third largest after Canada and Mexico. The US is the single largest for China, so it's absolutely not sustainable. So now looking forward, so let's not look in the past anymore, what happened in the past few weeks. Now let's look forward. Looking forward, what we can expect is deals on tariffs. By definition, deals on tariffs is going to be good for both counterparties. So if you bring the tariff down to 50% or to 30% or to 20%, it's good news compared to the current 245% tariffs. And there will for sure, 100% sure be exemptions on a bunch of sectors. You can think about chips, you can think about a lot of very critical sectors, rare earth minerals, perhaps. You can think about a lot of critical sectors where there will be full exemptions. So going forward in the short term, there's only going to be good news. You're only going to get deals because you cannot get more restrictive than this. So that's why the short term is very bullish for me. Additionally, we saw the inflation numbers. The whole world is either deflationary, either disinflationary. So China is in deflation. Europe has extremely low inflation. Uh, it just doesn't make sense. The U.S. alone would be in a bubble, in an inflationary bubble. I mean, everything is connected. Yeah, even with tariffs, everything remains connected. So if all the other regions of the world are in deflation or disinflation, the U.S. will follow, and we already saw it actually with the CPI from March. Super encouraging. The number here that I have for March was 2.4%. The previous was 2.8, so it dropped by 0.4. If it continues on this trajectory, next month we are 2%. In any case, we're in the twos already. This is what Powell and the Fed wants. The Fed doesn't want to be in the ones. It doesn't want 1% inflation or 1.5. It wants to be around 2. We are around 2. When you look at PCE, it's also at 2.5. So we're around the target. The target is around 2%. So we're really within range. The economy is still strong. And what Powell yesterday said is that he wants to see the impact of tariffs before making a decision. And the impact of tariffs, we're going to know it already next month, in May, in June. We're going to know it really in the near term. And I think Powell just wants to be sure there's not going to be a sudden inflation rebound. We already have hints that we're not going to have a major inflation rebound. I think inflation will continue trending down. The downtrend might be somewhat offset with those temporary tariffs. But in any case, the trend is clear. We're going into 2% inflation. The consumer is still strong. We saw retail sales really to the roof yesterday or a few days ago. But even if the economy weakens, it doesn't worry me. Because as also Dimitri mentioned earlier, the Fed has tools to stimulate the economy. So my outlook is actually pretty bullish. I think we've bottomed, and I think we have amazing opportunities now in the market. I don't know if we're going to go into those opportunities, but they're really amazing ones at the moment.
Okay. Because I think, okay, so I tell you my bit, right? So I was watching yesterday the Central Bank of Canada, and they gave an interesting perspective. They gave two different scenarios
You really
based
have
on
nothing to
tariffs.
do, man. Huh? If you're watching the Canadian
You have
Central
no
Bank.
idea. Right now. I'm trying to figure out who knows what. But it's super interesting their perspective because they gave a two. A lot of companies are starting to give two guidances. You know what I mean? And they gave two guidances. If the tariffs stay and if the tariffs don't stay. The problem that's starting to turn me a little bit more bearish, because I was sitting at in the bear bull scale, I was sitting at a 5, so I was kind of neutral. But I would say I'm at a 4, like I would say even a 3 at this point. And it's interesting because what we are seeing right now in the inflation numbers and the customer retail sales and all of this data is the initial effects of the tariffs coming in, because this is a front running of products and services before the tariffs get implemented. And there was a lot of buying. I think the best day for car selling in America was the day just before the tariffs. You know, every single person was front running the price hikes that were happening. And if the tariffs come off, we can potentially deviate from this because people have already made their purchases. But I'm scared if they don't, right? If he continues to be Mr. Big Man and says this is the floor. For me, if this is the floor, I can get really bearish really quick because the impacts of tariffs will coming later, but it's not only the impact from tariffs, it's what he's doing to the American sentiment, to the international sentiment, the trustworthiness, the loyalty that people had to American products, and how he's just making that disappear. We have seen the dollar come down. We have seen the treasury market like extremely volatile. People are starting to ask questions. And this is the big thing that we need to pay very close attention to. Is what happens to the American dollar, what happens to the power of international investors. And I even heard today that JD Vance was starting to throw around the idea that the United States could start charging foreigners to access their markets with a tax on capital. If this was the way that Trump plans to take it into the future. I can tell you, in the UK, there is a stamp duty for any purchase above £1,000, I believe, for stocks. So what does that do? I'm not investing in the UK. I invest away. Right? So it's like all of a sudden, if you don't become competitive in real markets, people start figure out ways to go somewhere else where there is more safety, where there is certainty. America has always been the power, but what if they're not? What if they can't be trusted? What if if they're looking for America first at the expense of my dollars? And that's the big question that we have to answer here. That is.
Can I answer that?
But no, let me finish. Let me finish. So that's point number 2, right? So it's the delayed effects, and I'm keeping a very close eye. And the Bank of Canada did state this, right? They were like, look, we're in the first scenario is like, if the tariffs get implemented and this is the worst that we're gonna get, cool. We're gonna see inflation in the second part of the year, which is why the Fed is being cautious. Now, the Fed, I think they are doing the right thing. I think the Fed right now, it's in a very good place, and right now we're probably at neutral, I believe. But the big question goes down to what happens if Trump breaks something that we still don't know. What is the black swan? Because this has been a self wound by the Americans. The question is what else? What domino falls after that? And I agree, in the very short term, we have Japan. But what if the Japan deal is just 10,000 people in the border? Like the first Mexican deal that Trump did in order to get a win, as he calls it, right? What if he doesn't get that win? It's the thing that scares me in this case. And then if we're doing all of this for like, okay, like we're gonna do like, okay, you're gonna have to pay me X amount, because he's talking. Trump mentioned that yesterday. He was talking about not only tariffs, but paying for defense and the American U.S. forces, everything in this deal. And what happens if Trump doesn't get it? What if Japan walks away from the talks? What if somebody else walks away from the talks? We see the Chinese not even wanting to engage at this point, because they're just like, look, like we don't feel respected in this situation. Like you're just like doing whatever you want without actually including us in the conversation. We've seen him with Zelensky, so we see him with Putin, the way that he's acting with everybody else, and it's not trustworthy. You know, it's gangsterism. It's like, I am the biggest man here, and it's like, look, yeah, you're the biggest man, but against all of us, you're not gonna win. What happens if Europe goes to China? What happens if Japan goes to China? You know, so those are my points. Those are my points. You know, it's like there is still a lot of uncertainty and a lot of risk around this scenario that need to be resolved quickly, because the longer he keeps this up, the faster the trust is gonna disappear. Now we go into the debate space. So
let me respond to that. I think you listened to the Central Bank of Canada a bit too long yesterday. Look, Trump is a businessman. He's a billionaire. He's invested in crypto. He's invested in stocks. The entire administration is composed of billionaires, businessmen, CEOs, fund managers. Don't forget Besson's background. It's very hard to imagine that this administration hates money and hates capital and hates foreign capital and hates domestic capital. It's a very pro-capital administration. This is when you zoom out, and when you go into every single person's background, you see that they all love money more than the previous administrations. Trump's way of dealing, and it was exactly the same in the first during his first mandate. He takes the bazooka out, he shoots, and then he brings everyone to the table. And the first mandate, I keep reminding everyone about the first mandate. Everyone forgot, or everyone was too young. I don't know. It was just 2016. He had tariffs on China. There was a trade war. Don't you remember the escalation between both countries? Don't you remember that it was the end of the world at that time already? And there was, I mean, and this was in 2016. And we went through that already. This is self-inflicted, what is happening with the US market since the beginning of this year. The large American corporations, they will continue to generate revenue, they will continue to generate earnings, because they power a big portion of the world, of the Western world. And that's why I think that all these bearish things that you mentioned, Nestor. It's what people are feeling, but that's how to say, that's the actual black swan. Like the black swan event already happened. Yeah. So going forward, you're going to have deals happening between countries. And if it doesn't happen, if we don't have deals between countries, you can always diversify your portfolio with some exposure to other countries, to European equities, to Chinese equities. I have some. I am heavy on the US, but I have some exposure to Europe and to China. But the equity markets are not doing well in Europe. They're not doing well in China. You are afraid about the capital gains tax on foreign capital, and you
No,
took the
so
example.
not a capital
No, no,
gains.
no. Just,
It's a stamp duty. So
it's a
it's like
tax.
when
Yeah,
you
it's
bring
like
the
the
money.
UK has. When you buy a stock, you get taxed.
Correct.
And you are afraid of that tax, and you took the example of the UK. Funnily, by taking the example of the UK, you're actually telling people it's already the case in Europe, right? So that shows that the US likes today capital more than Europe, more than the UK. I think Belgium is also already introduced similar tax. So this just shows, that even if the US introduced that stamp duty on US stocks, it's not going to move the capital to UK stocks. Yeah.
No, I don't think so either. But I think a diversification. Now, right, like America was the golden child of investing. If you wanted to make money, you would go to American markets. That was where you set up. That's where you incorporated.
Yeah.
That's where you did
But
everything.
Nestor, let's compare with other markets. Right now, China is not trustworthy because Chinese government meddles with the Chinese market. Right? It can decide to break down the tech companies. So the Chinese market lost credibility. What alternative there is? The European one. The European one, there is no growth. We are at 0.9% growth for this year. So you're going to buy European stock. You will be bored to death because the
But
stock is not going to
agreed.
go up. As simple
Agreed.
as
But
that. It's
maybe
not
but
going
maybe
to
we're
go
going
up.
to but maybe we're just going to be bored. Like maybe investing becomes boring again and we don't get that volatility, right? Maybe I just
It's
want
not.
to make
It's not going to
5%.
become. It's not going to become boring again because of Trump. Trump is there. It's not going to become boring.
So
So
let me ask you this, and this is something I'm trying to figure out. Okay, when you do a discounted cash flow model, you come up with a risk-free premium. What is the premium? The premium, like the additional premium you have to take into account for Trump. How much more percentage do I have to make in America to be dealing with Trump every day? Is the question. The Trump effect.
in my opinion, a few percents above the U.S. Treasury yield is a sufficient premium. It's not very ambitious, but why would you go with a 4% 30-year Treasury yield when you can have 5% on stocks
No,
plus
but the thing.
dividend?
No, but the problem is like, look, like
No,
holding the pound, even holding the pound has given me a 4% in the last 3 days. You know what I mean? The euro has come up from 109 to 113. Like he's losing a lot of credibility in the world stage. Japan is selling treasuries. China is selling treasuries. What happens if the
but
treasury market
this is
collapses?
this is good news. If the dollar becomes cheaper, it means dollar-denominated assets become more expensive.
But not in,
Um,
Okay.
but the thing is everything is coming down at the same time. It's all of America. It's the American trade is collapsing because of this uncertainty. Companies cannot make decisions. We cannot make decisions. It's like even for my personal companies, I cannot make a decision whether I'm going to move my
Nestor,
money to the States.
Nvidia, you're following Nvidia. Nvidia made the
Yeah, I
decision
think
to invest in the
yeah,
US.
but that was already there. That was already there. He keeps claiming the wins of just money that was already being played. You know what I mean? Like he's like, I am the greatest, and it's like, bro, Biden was the one that did the CHIPS Act and actually incentivized these companies to invest here. Who wants to take? Okay, let the other one speak. Let the others speak. Let the others speak. Like the thing is like I don't think the overall market's gonna benefit, and I'm bearish on the overall market, but on single stocks, they're gonna be winners. And right now, I think Nvidia is a safety stock because it's like AI, we're gonna need it. You know what I mean? So, but okay, I passed the baton.
I want to talk about crypto because
Talk about it.
we're 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 right now in the middle of volatility, and as I see it, Bitcoin had a massive spike down, but in the last days we saw Bitcoin quite resilient. Yesterday, for example, stocks crashing down, Bitcoin was up. What does that mean? Okay, we already have gold making new all-time highs. Are other I would not say countries, but is Bitcoin becoming more like a safe play in the future? Um, my personal answer is Bitcoin follows. We saw stocks crash when Trump made his announcement about the tariffs. Bitcoin was resilient, but a few days later, Bitcoin crashed as well. So it wasn't that resilient. I think the same is gonna happen again, where Bitcoin is gonna go up maybe just a little bit more until 90K, dragging a lot of investors, traders thinking the low is in. And then if the market crashes even harder to a new low, I don't think Bitcoin will remain resilient. I don't think Bitcoin will keep its low. And I certainly don't think altcoins will perform that well. Actually, yesterday I went in a trading view. I scanned for altcoins trading above their 200 moving averages. You know how much altcoins I found trading above their 200 moving average, which means for me it's still strong. Two, you had XRP and TRX, Tron. That's it. So of all the altcoins, there's only two showing strength.
If can I respond to that for the crypto part? Because my portfolio is quite exposed to crypto. About 30% of the portfolio is in crypto, including altcoins. Usually, you see really bullish movements for crypto when the dollar gets cheaper, and the dollar is currently getting way cheaper, and when interest rates are going down, and now you're going to have QE soon from the Fed. So I do think that it is a very attractive mini cycle within the bullish cycle that we have in crypto to accumulate. Because if you remember, in 2021 we had the first peak in Bitcoin, and then we had a huge drop, and then we went into to get the 69K per Bitcoin, and I think we are there between those two peaks now, with the dollar dropping and the interest rates that will be cut. So I personally think it's a very good moment to accumulate.
But which ones? Which ones are you buying?
Uh,
There's so many. Are you buying Fartcoin?
so I personally prefer to stay within the top 30, to pick from the top 30. Those are the ones that are being used the most, that usually have some interesting use cases, and but this, we have another episode where I think we discussed already which specific crypto coins to buy. But the point is, crypto can come back very quickly, and stocks also can come back very quickly when you have those uncertainties that fade. Those uncertainties, I think, they actually already materialized, and they're already priced in now. Uh, what much worse can happen in the future for both stocks and crypto, especially for stocks?
Can I make a point and then just leave so I can leave you guys talk? So let me address Nestor's question about sentiment, which is important, by the way. So sentiment, it has everything to do with the US economy, because it's the consumer. The economy is the consumer. So you can't force the consumer to spend. You can't subsidize it. The consumer has to go and spend by itself. So as long the sentiment with uncertainty of Trump, who is getting tariffed, how much, are we getting inflation, not getting inflation? So it makes the consumer, businesses, and household not to spend money. That's what worries me about the sentiment. We need to get a resolution as soon as possible. Not as soon as possible, but at least get some deals done. So the people can see that this is not a long term. Because once the consumers start spending, then we're gonna get confused because we're gonna think it's a recession, but it's going to be a cautious consumer. And if you go back after the financial crisis, in the years 09, 10, and 11, the consumer wasn't spending at all because they were waiting to see what is going to happen. Are we getting another crisis? Are we getting another recession? So we don't want to get into that situation. And Trump, he's doing his best to get us there. And as far the deals that you were saying with Japan, I think Trump is playing into the weakness of the Asian countries with the disputes they have with China, because in Europe it was World War II, but then we all got together. Okay, the French guy and the German guy, okay, they are like neighbors and they try between. But in Asia, it's the history of humiliation for China. And they didn't forget what happened in the 20th century and what Japan did to them. And the South China Sea is such a disputed area, and so many countries like Vietnam, I think Cambodia, is obviously Taiwan. So Trump is playing to the weakness of the country, basically trying to make them choose. Do you want to be with us and we're going to be next to you in time of trouble, or do you want to go with China? And he's doing the same thing with Europe. Now that he knows Russia is right there and Europe cannot defend itself at this point, he has the troops in Germany, so he's trying to play into that. How successful he will be, I don't know, but I think this whole story is just one one big economy to make a deal with the US, and then the whole thing is going to take its turn.
The first deal brings certainty of what the other deals will be like.
Yes.
You know, that is the beauty. That is the beauty, and I agree. But it's this one sort of point where we have to wait to see. We know that Japan is the first one to go through the door. Hopefully, they get resolved. We get a favorable deal. This changes sentiment quickly. But I'm always scared on this saying that I hear. It's sentiment. Bearish sentiment comes in quick. Bullish sentiment takes years to build.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and right now he's coming in and he's shaking. And there's a lot of things falling. You know? So, anything else you want to add, Akim? Whoa, cannot hear you.
I can't hear you.
Sorry, it was my mic. I was muted. No, I was saying I think my stance is quite clear. I'm very bullish, both for the short term and the long term. Sentiment changes very quickly. It's something that changes very quickly. If stocks start going up again, the sentiment in the market will change very quickly. That's why also I don't like technical analysis much, because it's always a reflection of the past. It's not telling us what's going to happen in the future. You always can have those breakouts, and I think that in the future we're going to have bullish events. So deals going to happen. And if that there will be quantitative easing from the Fed if the consumer starts showing some weakness. If the consumer doesn't show weakness, then the consumer is going to keep stimulating the economy. Inflation is on its way down. There will be.
But let me ask you this. Would you be willing to change your perception if all of the things, because this is something that happened to me and I had to slap myself in the face, right? There's a lot of hope. If this happens and this happens and this happens, but what if we start getting the opposite? Okay, it didn't happen, then it didn't happen, then it didn't happen.
It's priced in, Nestor. This is exactly my point.
But you think that it cannot be more priced in?
I think it's completely priced in. Everything that you mentioned, and usually they price in fears with an additional premium. I personally think it's already priced in, and as an investor, you need to think that the future is going to be better than the present. Because if you think in a different way, just go and buy bonds, or actually don't buy bonds, keep the cash under your mattress, because if you buy bonds and then the whole world collapses, just like everyone is writing everywhere, it's best to actually, cash is also useless in that scenario.
Yeah.
Let me think. You can
Buy
only buy
gold?
gold, and not the ETF. Buy the real
No.
gold.
Yeah. Under the
And
mattress. Under the mattress.
and you can keep real gold under the mattress. But this you can also do even when the market is bullish. And actually, you should have done it while the market was bullish. And that's my point.
Yeah.
Now, orienting your portfolio towards a defensive portfolio makes no sense. You should have done it while the market was really growing a lot. Because now that the market dropped, in my opinion, it makes no sense to go defensive. It's too late. What are you going to defend now? You already, the world already scored all the goals. The Bears already scored all the goals.
Like the
What are you going to
defensive trade
defend?
right
You
now,
have
the
to
defensive
defend
trade right now
while
is
you're
growth.
winning.
Is growth. The
Exactly.
defense, like, and the thing is like, look, like I think right now, like Timothy, are you fully invested? Is all your cash deployed? You still have cash on the sidelines.
But
I have cash on the
it,
sidelines.
it's I have cash, but it's not more than 5%.
You see, so it's like I'm sitting on 60% cash right now, but I have 100% market exposure. Right? So it's like, and this is something that, like what we spoke at the beginning, like we're all bullish, right? Like it's just in this episode, I wanted to analyze and evaluate both sides, because as an investor, we need to put in front of us
Yeah.
both sides of the equation and make sure that those things happen. But I was telling you, for me, I kept getting Trump wrong, and I kept hoping I was gonna getting him right. And then I kept losing money because I wasn't making the decisions based on what was happening, but based on what I was hoping to happen. And when it didn't happen, I didn't change the way.
Can I share one analogy?
Yeah,
And then I
yeah,
think I will leave the floor to Dimitri. He looks like he's
yeah,
boiling, wants to say something. So
yeah.
we lost the screen.
He left.
Yeah. So the analogy I wanted to give actually is, so 2 years ago I broke one leg at football, and now I broke my second leg. So my two legs are officially broken, and both at football. And at football, when you're winning, you have to defend, and when you're losing, you have to attack and to really speed up and to try to score. So now, when the market has dropped so much, you have to look into growth stocks that will grow in earnings, and there are a lot of them. And you mentioned Nvidia. Nvidia is a very interesting play. A lot of people are worried about tariffs, but if you're worried about tariffs, in the chip sector, you have to go with the one who has a lot of cash and who is basically controlling the supply chain, and that's Nvidia.
A monopoly. Nvidia's a monopoly right now.
That's also TSMC.
Well,
So
TSMC had good results today also, eh?
you have to go into growth stocks when you're losing, and when you're winning, you have to go a bit more defensive. This is the right approach, in my opinion.
Yo, Mimi is asking, so from a bearish stance, how long should everybody wait until they buy stocks and crypto? Timothy.
I think, yeah,
I think
based on seasonality, yeah, June, July, August are usually not that bullish. So I would say these 3 months are likely going to be good opportunities to buy.
I think volatility is going to provide opportunities for people to get in. And I think right now you put in buy orders at crazy levels and hope that you get them. Nvidia. Oh, people were telling me, oh, it's like it was at 90, and it's like, oh, I missed it. It's already gone. And then we're back to 100, and today we're sitting at 104. Right? So it's like, set up buy orders like crazy. If you have a bunch of capital to deploy, set up buy orders at interesting levels. Nvidia at 90 would have been an insane buy, 20% in less than a week. Right? So be ready to deploy the capital at when crazy volatility happens. And if you don't feel comfortable and the things stop from happening, don't be afraid to sell some of it and take a little bit of cash off the table. Mimi asks again, what was at the bottom? Let's ask the bullish. Akim.
Um, so, in my opinion, when you have cash, the best moment to buy is today. I think every day there is a good opportunity to buy. If you have money now, you buy because it's impossible to time exactly the bottom. It's better to buy when everything is on minus 20, minus 30% sales. That's how I buy my clothes as well. I always wait for sales. But it doesn't mean that they're not going to be at minus 50% sales soon. But in the future, you will have also a bit of money. You invest again, and you keep a long-term view.
Okay. Demetris.
What was the question?
Are we at the bottom? Is this the bottom?
In stocks or crypto?
Stocks and crypto. Tell me stocks, then tell me crypto.
If this is not the bottom, it's definitely around the bottom. So you can't get, I mean, everything pretty much is priced in. I mean, what are we not pricing in? Like aliens coming? What's left to price in?
Yeah.
I mean, unless we get into like a war, like a conflict between the countries negotiating tariffs, okay, until a trade war becomes like a real war, then I think pretty much now okay, so one thing to consider still is the revisions of companies for the outlook for the rest of the year, because there is so much uncertainty. If the consumer doesn't know what is going to happen, doesn't want to spend, businesses don't want to hire more people, then they want to do capex other than the Max 7 that they have the money and they're not affected by tariffs. Other than those, the rest of the market has to second guess every expenditure they're going to do in the rest of the year. So a little bit more, if they cut the outlook a little bit further for the rest of the year, maybe we'll get a bit more downside, but I don't think we're going low when we went in March.
Okay. Okay. Timothy.
I just saw this last question, so I might wanna check
Do it up.
what the
Do it up.
question-
Right now we're in the deep end. So, by the way, thanks everybody for watching and staying with us up to this point. If you're here, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay,
It
go,
says,
Timothy.
what is your opinion on buying things that are discounted and therefore not caring about market cycle? Just buying things for less than they are
They're
worth
worth.
it and not caring about politics and news. Yeah, that's basically my strategy. Yeah, I'm not selling, guys. I might be telling you I'm bearish in the short term, or I think that the market is going lower, but I'm not selling my stocks. I'm only buying stocks based on the fundamentals and based on their intrinsic value. When I calculate the value, I check on the chart, okay, bam, it's below that value, I can buy. And then I wait until it drops another few percents to the next level, bam, I buy again. And I do this all the time. And just wait whenever you are completely full in your portfolio. So just focus on the companies you aim to have in your portfolio, check the fundamentals, see if they're still growing, and then you can start buying when markets start dropping.
Yeah. For me, only Trump will decide. Trump is the Trump factor will tell us whether this is the bottom or not. It depends on how he feels that day. If he feels bad for a couple of days, oh my god. He went to go play golf and the market's relieved for a little bit. So it depends on Trump. Right now, it's very difficult to say. But I think we're going to get volatility and I think we're going to get opportunities to buy amazing companies at cheap prices. So, yeah.
Who is the one that can force Trump to do something that he doesn't want to do? The bond market.
Yeah.
The
Because he
bond
needs to borrow. Yeah.
Like last week, I think it was the bond market that made him do the turnaround. Because for the first time, I mean, I don't know if you guys remember any other time that the dollar went down and the bond market went up. supposed to be the other way around in times of trouble, and then there was some malfunctioning to the bond market, and I think that had everything to do with Trump doing the turnaround last week. So the bond market intimidates everyone, basically.
Something to keep in mind also is liquidity keeps increasing. Even when with stocks dropping, cryptos dropping, liquidity in the world keeps increasing. You have trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars on the sideline. I think now you have more than $10 trillion on the sideline, just in cash, waiting to be deployed. So that's something to keep in mind, and it's efficient. I mean, the capital that's currently still invested, if they were not spooked by what happened in the last few weeks, there's no reason they would be spooked in the next few weeks. And all this cash that's on the sideline, I think, is just waiting to re-enter.
Yeah.
One more thing I want to say, because it was reported in the last few days, but it went under the radar. What is that, the M2?
Yo, don't press stop. When you stop the screen share,
Yeah,
don't
that's the
press
M2.
Oh, yeah, that's the M2. The delisting of Chinese companies from the US exchanges. It was reported last week that Trump is thinking about it, but it went completely under the radar. And if they further escalate between China and the US, I think it's not off the table.
Yeah. And there was another
This-
escalation, the embargoes, right? Like just being like it could get to the point where you have to choose China
But-
or the
But
States.
those threats, they happened since 2016, including during Biden. You also had those threats of Chinese stocks delisting. You had embargo threats, tariff threats. When it was during Biden, there was not much of market reaction. It's just Trump is more vocal and unpredictable in his way of doing. But the tariff champion, it was Biden, not Trump 1.0.
I think Biden gave them a 3-year extension to comply with the GAB rules, and they haven't. And it's up to Trump to delist them. I don't think we're gonna get there, but if we get there, I mean, do you want to see a shit show? Oh my God! Let $800 billion out of the exchanges be delisted, and how are they going to delist them? Are they going to do it slowly, or are they just going to announce it and whoever?
Do like Russian companies. You're not allowed to trade them, and just leave the capital stock.
Yeah, I mean the shareholders, they will see probably their ADRs converted into Chinese shares. So for the shareholders, I'm not too worried, I would say. But still, it would be a shit show if that happens. But that's also on the table for sure.
Yeah, we're just keeping it posted. But you guys want to keep going? I mean, we've been going for about.
The Fed last night made some positive comments about crypto, right, Timothy? He was asked about crypto, and I don't remember exactly the context, but he made some positive comments about crypto. So that was, other than that, and that he likes to go to the gym, the Fed last night did not help at all.
No, the Fed is very interesting because I think their rhetoric is this, and all of them, I've kept up with them, and I actually keep a list of the the hawk scale of the bulls and bears. It's interesting because the message is the same. Look, right now we're in a good place. If the economy needs it, we're gonna step in. The stock market does not matter. It matters, employment and inflation, and right now we're focusing on inflation because it's the pressing matter. It's like, and I don't think they've changed, and I don't think they're going to change that rhetoric. Not for Trump, not for anybody. They've done a great job so far, in my opinion. The Fed has done a great job to get us to almost land the plane. And Trump was like, I don't want to land the plane. We're going back up.
Yeah.
This morning, though, on Bloomberg, the title was Trump says Fed Chair Powell termination can't come fast enough. You guys saw that?
Yeah, he put that on Truth Social.
Yeah.
He posted that.
You know what? I think Powell with all his faults that and the mistakes he did in during COVID, I think he's a pretty good chair for the Fed. Would you guys agree with that
Yeah.
statement?
Yeah.
He's a good chair, but I would agree with Trump that Powell a bit slow is a bit slow also in interacting because he's always saying he's data dependent, so he waits until the data is out. But if you wait till the data is out, by definition, it's already too late to act. You know, and actually there was a question this morning from popular investors. Maybe we can address it here. Is do you think Trump can and will fire Powell, because we saw Trump already fire two heads of two different independent agencies. So
Yeah, the FTC.
he
Yeah,
he could.
I mean,
Nest-
okay, to be fair, you're right. He did fire two independent heads of the FTC, but it's not compare. I mean, the FTC and the Fed are two different kind of.
If the Fed loses its trust, we are fucked. If the Fed loses its trust and we start doubting what the Fed's gonna, we are.
Who's gonna get in there? Who's gonna get in there? I mean, he has to get a yes man. Let's not forget, Jay Powell was his pick. He picked him.
it was his pick.
It was his pick.
Yeah,
He's
but
just throwing stuff. You know, he's been doing the same with everybody. He throws a bunch of
But
of shit to the wall and see what
But you know
sticks.
what? I think these positions, for example, the Fed, the Supreme Court, the guy that he put in the Supreme Court, like I think, what was his name? Not the last guy, the guy before. He went a couple of times. He won against him because once you appoint them, and they don't have to answer to you, they're gonna do whatever they want because it's their legacy at play. So he has to get his son-in-law. Okay, like for him to get the Fed to do exactly what he wants. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not really worried we're gonna get to that, but yeah, it's a possible risk for sure.
Nestor, if I may, I have a good stock recommendation for your portfolio. I would recommend you put at least half of your portfolio in it.
Taco to me,
It's
taco to me.
It's the ticker is CNI, Canadian National Railway. It's Canadian. It pays dividends. It's defensive.
You laugh now, but when the North unfreezes, the railways will run through the world.
I mean, the stock
I like the
outperformed.
Canadians. I like the Canadians. I went to university with the Canadians. They're proud people, man. They're proud. They're proud. They'll drop the gloves. They'll drop the gloves with anybody, you know. And all it takes is getting Canadians together. Like it's Canada and America are very similar on the fact that when you attack them, they can get together. They can get together like crazy, you know. So, you know, Canada is an interesting one, you know. And I think Trump might have messed up with Canada here. I think you know they were comfortable where they were, and now they're not so comfortable. And
You know what would be interesting? You know what would be really interesting is if Powell becomes the U.S. president, because now the Canadian Prime Minister is the former central bank head. It would be really interesting, you know, to have that duo of central bank heads. They look also quite similar, physically speaking. It's quite interesting.
I wasn't even sure that Canada had like its own central bank.
yeah.
I mean, the
They
50
do things. They do things.
the 51st state have the Fed too, right?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
All right. Oh my goodness.
Great.
Anything else, guys? Anything else? I think. Well, one thing I wanted to add, just really quickly. I think Trump has a timer that China does not in this case too. Trump has the midterms coming up, and he needs his popularity to be up quickly.
That Chinese GDP continues to accelerate, and Dimitri mentioned the bond market also in the US is putting pressure on Trump. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Trump, more than on Xi Jinping.
Yeah. But the rest of the world is feeling it. Eh?
The Chinese numbers, I don't really believe them.
Yeah, it's the problem. It's the problem. Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest here, okay? I'm sure they're growing, but I don't know if it's like 5% and that. But and another thing about the US, most of the Americans they agree with what this Trump is trying to do, but they disagree the way he's trying to do
To
it.
do it.
Yes. So the way he's going about it is very unpopular.
Yeah.
And and J.D. Vance calling them like peasants. I mean, that was really necessary. I
Man,
mean,
you know who's looking worse and worse every single time? Like JD Vance. He acts like a child. And then Trump has to be, "Okay, little kid, what do you think?" You know, whenever they speak, it's hilarious. You know who's coming out of this really interestingly? Marco Rubio.
yes,
Marco Rubio is coming in so presidential. So presidential.
I
And
think I think it might be his time next time.
you know, and I think JD Vance is messing it up. He's like, "You haven't said thank you." It's like, bro, shut up. He has people dying. Like, what are you talking about? An American dies and the world has to freeze over, and Ukrainians die every day. And oh, say thank you, kiss the ring.
You
It's
know what?
outrageous.
You know what? To me, the vice president and then the first lady are like on the same level. Just stand next to the guy and look pretty.
Yeah,
Okay? Nothing, nothing more than that. It's not. You are not elected. It's just. It's a symbolic. It's a
yeah.
symbolic, basically, job. The vice president. I mean, is it really necessary? I mean, he's trying to negotiate with the Chinese. I mean, calling them names is not really going to help.
Trump even said it. The funny thing is, he's like, Trump said it to Zelensky. He's like, "What am I gonna call names and then try to make a deal?" And it's like, bro, you're doing that with everybody. You're doing that with everybody. But well, markets are open. Nvidia down.
Let me buy
Oh,
some. Let me buy some UNH since.
it's interesting. It's an interesting market. The pound is up. The
Uh,
pound's performance.
Canadian Railway is up today, 1%. It's flat year to date. Outperforms everything.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm gonna put 1% of my portfolio in that stock, and I'm gonna laugh when it's the only thing that's up in my portfolio for the next year.
The Canadian Railway, I think, is the sister company of the Union Pacific.
I think, yeah.
They
Yo,
are
Timothy,
they're on the same level.
Bitcoin 90 or 78 first? Mimi asks.
No, in the short term, I think 90.
Oh wow.
Whoa.
But I would be a seller at 90.
Oh, a seller at 90. Interesting.
Not short, but just
But sell
sell.
cash. All right. Well, thank us everybody so much for watching. If you watched this far, we appreciate you. We're gonna be trying to do this more often. I think this one was better than the last one. At least I didn't cut it halfway, which is great. I am improving, even though my computer's about to explode. You know? But yeah,
Hope you
Thanks.
didn't drop any coffee this time on the computer.
I didn't. I didn't. That's so great. You know what I mean? Like, who knew? Who knew that coffee on top of your computer would have created some issues? I thought it would have given it a boost. You know? Who needs GPUs when you have caffeine?
It depends on the depends on the coffee.
Yeah, it's the truth.
Dimitri usually just opened a new position. I just received a notification while we're talking. The guy's investing.
You gotta do it. We're in the clock right now. You know what I mean, Mark?
Nestor said the market just opened. I said, okay, let me buy some UNH, and then right at the open.
Done. Well, it's
Good.
interesting. The VIX is down. UNH. Why did they come down? It was Mark. What was it?
The earnings outlook.
It's the outlook. You know what I mean? Like, what happens when companies start saying, "I'm not gonna give you outlook"? That's scary. But
Your first thought was like, oh shit, if this company drops 20%, what about Nvidia? That was my second thought after this one. What about Nvidia? What about AMD? What about all the big companies that are like Apple?
you know, yeah, yeah. But the thing is, like, he keeps like, it's like if we had some clarity, at least you could invest. But he's like, 45% tariffs, 145% tariffs, 245% tariffs, exemptions on some products, maybe some more products. Okay, less products. It's like, bro, what are we talking? Like, you ask professionals, and they're like, I don't know. I have no idea. I still have to it keeps changing so fast, and it's like, okay, like, is it gonna affect this? Is it not gonna affect this? Everybody wants a deal, so it's like right now I don't trust whatever they say. I trust more what everybody else says. It's like, because he's like, I have a deal done with China, and it's like, bro, they haven't even talked, they haven't even picked up the phone, and he's like, okay, tell them to pick up the phone. Tell them to call me because we want to make a deal, but they have to be the first ones to make the deal. It's like they're dating out like an ex-girlfriend. Tell her to call me first if she wants to talk.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
China is not going to Washington. That's the thing, and Trump is not going to China neither.
You know.
So he needs to send his cereals there to China. Kellogg
Correct.
is his name, I think.
All right, guys. I
Good.
think that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. If you have any questions, post them in the comments down below. We'll be more than happy to get them. And a like means that we are getting better, and we'll use all of the resources to actually get you better content. So make sure you subscribe, hit that like, and bam. Because next thing you know, we'll get Demetris in next to Trump as an advisor, Akim with the Chinese. Timothy will go find Satoshi, and me, I'll do what I do. Look pretty, that's all. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Peace. I hope this time it stops
Bye-bye.
from going live, because at this point, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Good,
Oh,
good.
that's great.
That was